Patience is a virtue. Everything in life takes time. Stay focused, stay consistent, stay on your grind. Wow. Second man up, just like Scottie Pippen. Had to wait my turn, I ain't even tripping. Double up.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Welcome to Street Dialogue Podcast, where we get dialogue from a street perspective. And we have a special guest today, the Promo God. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining the show. So go ahead on and introduce yourself for people who are watching that might not know who you are, for the fans out there.
So what I do is I do music marketing for artists who are looking to establish a fan base, and essentially what I do is I run ads for them mainly. So like I'll take their content and I'll run ads on it to put it in front of the right people and put it in front of people that have engaged in something similar before, and then I use that information to promote people's music and direct people towards people's music to help grow their fan base. So essentially like my job consists of just running ads and then going through the data to see who's engaging in the ads and then using that information to retarget with and grow artists' audiences.
Got you. So what we like to do, we like to not only pick your brain on the show, but we do like to go into your background, the way people know your upbringing, where you from. So where are you from originally?
So I'm originally, I was born in Syria originally, but I moved to America when I was really young. I moved to Florida when I first came to America at like age 4, and then I moved around a lot. I grew up mainly in Pennsylvania, but right now I live in Los Angeles. I moved here for the music industry, but yeah, I would say I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania.
Okay. So growing up, you grew up with both parents in the home, or how did that go?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I grew up with both parents. I had like traditional parents who, just kind of wanted to see me like work and stuff like that and just see me do good. But yeah, I had both parents.
So what made your parents move to America in the first place? Like, why did you guys come over here?
Well, for them it was a lot of war in Syria and Iraq, so they essentially just wanted a better living, and so they kind of migrated out here to the U.S.
Okay. And growing up, did you have any obstacles that you faced growing up here in America, coming from another country, not speaking the language? Like, how did that go for you?
Honestly, for the most part, it wasn't too bad because I was kind of like protected in a sense because we essentially just kind of stayed to ourselves, and I was just learning English. But I had obstacles as far as like trying to make friends and stuff like that, and just trying to fit in. That was probably the biggest obstacle, just being from somewhere else, trying to fit in, especially early on in the 90s. Every people weren't as open as they were right now.
That is facts. That's factual. So growing up, what schools did you go to growing up?
I went to East High School in Erie, PA. East High School. I went to North Star in Lincoln, Nebraska as well. And then I went to college as well, Gannon University. I tried to become like a lawyer in college, but I ended up dropping out. But yeah, I did go to school for a good period of my life.
So you dropped out. What caused you to drop out of college?
I was starting to do the marketing and music stuff, and I was, I couldn't focus on both things at the same time. So I was like, I need to choose something to do and give my full focus on. So I was like, I just dropped out of college and start, doing the marketing thing.
Got you. So you dropped out of school and now you're focused on marketing. What gave you the drive to get into marketing? Like, what made you go in that direction to start marketing?
Uh, So I always loved music. So like I started out, I had a little like microphone and a little studio to myself, and I would just kind of record people in my neighborhood because I always wanted to be around music. I also tried to make music myself. I had like because I was obviously an engineer. I had a microphone, so I was playing around with the music thing for a long time. But it's just because I love music mainly. I wanted to do something around music. So when I first started engineering, I started posting advice on Facebook and tell people, um, how to get their music out there, put their music on that piff and stuff like that, and
Right.
eventually people started reaching out to me for help, and that kind of became went into the marketing lane.
That's dope. That's dope. So you basically started as an engineer, and you had the passion for music. And so, what type of research did you do? Like, how did that go about? Like, where did you start off when you started researching and gaining all this knowledge? Because I know that wasn't overnight. Did you have someone in the industry with industry insight, or did you just read yourself? Like, how did that work out?
Yeah, I was just kind of reading and just going online, and I always kind of had like I had this magazine about marketing when I was in college, and it was like really interesting to me. The first thing I read about marketing was, how people use females to sell products and stuff like that. So that was like the first time it was a magazine about how like lipstick and stuff like that is based around marketing, because it gives a sexual appeal, sex sells. So like that was the first time I ever thought about like I knew I liked marketing, but that was the first time I seen it on paper and like enjoyed something, reading something about marketing, and that just kind of kind of trickled from there where I started doing my own research. I had access to like the computers at college and stuff like that, and I had my own computer, but I was essentially just researching a lot about the music industry, a lot of trial and error, just putting out music with a lot of artists, and just helping them grow their audience, and just kind of learning from our mistakes as I was doing it.
Got you. So I know it had to be some learning curves. So the first artist that you worked with, do you remember who the first artist you helped? That gave you an opportunity to help them with the marketing. How did that go? How did that happen?
Yeah, so the first artist was actually one of my friends that his name was G Money, and I helped we essentially did a mixtape together where I engineered it and we put it on that piff. And then I was able to get other people in the city that saw me do that, reach out to me as well, and I kind of started doing the same thing for them as well.
Got you. Got you. So I want to talk about DSPs. Why is it important for artists to register their music with a distribution company?
Well, the main thing is just to kind of get your royalties and be accessible on all platforms. But essentially, is just to be on the market and be accessible to your audience. Because if you're not where the fans are, it's going to be hard to build a fan base. Even if your goal is not to make a living off of streaming, I still think it's important and necessary to grow your fan base.
And that's a great point. Talking about fan base, what are some key components that artists need to know and to use to build their fan base when they're starting off into the music industry, especially as an independent?
Uh, One of the biggest key components is definitely like your story and just being able to translate that through content and your music, and just having like a clear message with your brand and your what you stand for, because that's ultimately is going to be what's going to connect you with your audience. If they see what you stand for and they stand for the same things, they're more likely to engage in the actual music and content, because it's something they can relate to.
I never thought of that. That's actually great knowledge right there. So talking about DSPs, what is the best one you feel to register your music with, or does it really don't matter? Like, is it one that you really think artists should use, or are they all the same?
I would say they're all pretty much the same because, like, I work with artists that have every distributor possible, and everyone, complains about every distributor pretty equally, like because
Right, right.
a lot of them get their music removed and stuff like that, so they're like, really mad at the distribution company. But they think if they switch and go to another company, it's gonna be different, but it's really like all the same.
Okay, got you. So another question that I have for the artist: does a artist need to register?
Yo, what's up? It's your boy 12 Gauge. I just wanted to let you guys in on a little secret. Golden Money Team Marketing. If you need any marketing whatsoever, go follow my bro on Instagram. He'll take your page from 0 to 100. He'll teach you the ropes and he'll make sure that you get seen. Go follow him again at Golden Money Team Marketing.
With sound change? What is the thing about sound to change? Do artists need to register with sound to change? Is that something important?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing that Sound Exchange does, is help you collect royalties globally, and just when people play your music. So like the outside of distribution company, distribution connects collects your royalties for like Spotify, but it doesn't collect all of them. You get paid multiple times when your songs get streamed, and if having Sound Exchange, Song Trust, and all those different platforms is going to help you collect all your royalties. So definitely.
So is there an incorrect way to register your songs through Sound Exchange, and what is the proper way? Because with Sound Exchange, you still have to upload your music on there. You can't just register. Like, what is the proper way and incorrect way to register with Sound Exchange?
I would say definitely register it as soon as possible. Don't wait until the music blows up before you register. I
Mm,
would try to register as soon as possible, just so that you ensure that your song is protected and you're collecting all your royalties. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I would say is like just make sure you're registering on time, and then you're not you're all your music is owned by you, copyrighted and stuff like that, and uploaded to the Sound Exchange.
got you. So another platform that I wanted to get into is Song Trust. Do artists need to register with Song Trust?
Yeah, so that's one of the main websites, because there's usually like outside of your distributor, there's ASCAP, BMI, then there's Sound Exchange, and then there's Song Trust. Sound Exchange, I believe, is the one that collects royalties worldwide, and then Song Trust is the one that um, helps you collect royalties for. They help you collect this percentage of your royalties, but if you have all those, uh, three or four companies, you're collecting 100% of your royalties, because if you don't have Song Trust, you're gonna be leaving some money on the table for sure.
Correct. So talking about royalties, there's a few royalties that I would like to get into that I would like you to break down for everyone that's watching. Can you break down publishing royalties and what is publishing?
So, publishing is essentially the company that owns, the that owns the um, songs, in a sense, where they're the ones who own whether or not they license it and stuff like that. So with that being said, the publishing is definitely, publishing royalties is definitely a big part of the income you have, if you have 100% of your ownership, and you're not like signing it away, but it definitely is important as far as like rights and just being able to license the music and whatnot. So I would say it's very important in that aspect, because whoever owns the publishing is definitely going to have this, say so over what or how it gets placed and stuff like that.
And contrary to what you're saying, why is it important to have a PRO, a publishing rights organization? Does that have something to do with publishing as well? Do artists need to register with a PRO? Is that important?
Yeah. So if you want like your songwriter royalties, performance royalties, because sometimes when you perform live, you get paid as well with the PROs. So if you're registered with BMI or ASCAP, you collect all your royalties on just when it comes to writers and masters, and then you also have the power to get paid twice when you perform. And a lot of people don't know that, like, you get paid twice when you perform. And one of the ways you get paid is through your ASCAP or BMI. So it's definitely important in that sense.
And you said performance royalties. So how do artists actually get paid for the performance royalties? Do they have to go to the PRO and let them know what date they perform and register that in with them? Like, how do they actually get paid for that?
So usually, like, the venue and the PROs, they kind of have like a little connection in a sense. So if they're doing it the right way, when you perform, they should put that information in there on the PROs, and then you get paid that way too from your performances. So there's multiple ways to do it. Artists can do it themselves, or you can have the venue do it as well.
Is both ways effective, or which way do you think is more effective to get paid more quickly then when it comes to performance
I
royalties?
personally would do it myself because you
Mm,
have more control, and you know what's going on, and and just in case no one tries to do anything behind the scenes, that it isn't in your benefit. So I would definitely upload it myself.
got you. That is great information. So another royalties I would like you to break down. Can you break down mechanical royalties and explain what mechanical royalties are?
So mechanical royalties are the royalties that get paid when your song gets played on streaming platforms, and even like radio stations like satellite radio and stuff like that. So that's something that you know when your song gets streamed, whether it's on Spotify or on radio, they pay out a royalty for that. So if you have the right registration with all the music, you'll make sure that you get paid for your streams multiple times, and you get paid multiple times when you perform.
It's it's crazy that you brought up radio. So how do artists get paid from radio spins, and how does SoundScan work?
So SoundScan is are you referring to Luminate Data right now? I think they changed it to Luminate Data. I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, I didn't know that. Okay,
but
can you
uh
break that down?
so
Illuminate data
uh
and radio spins.
so with Illuminate Data, aka SoundScan, that's essentially what they what was I gonna say? They essentially just see how much sales you have, how many spins you're getting, and how many people are streaming your music, and they see if you get enough streams. Those are the people that put you on the Billboard charts. So if you don't have like SoundScan, and you're getting a lot of streams, and people are buying your albums and stuff like that, it's not going to register on the Billboard charts without SoundScan, aka Illuminate Data. So it's important in that aspect, just to get your music on, on the Billboard charts if you have the requirements as far as the streams and stuff like that.
So, in order for an artist to get on Billboard, do they have to register with a certain company? Like, how does that work?
Correct. Yeah, you have to register with Luminate Data. So if you register with them, there's like a little paper you have to fill out, and it essentially just tracks your sales across all these different channels to see how many you have, and if you reach the right amount of sales, they'll put you on on the Billboard charts.
Got you, got you. So, another royalty I would like you to break down is lyric display royalties, like AdSense. Can you break that down?
You said like AdSense?
Yeah, lyric display royalties, like registering with AdSense and stuff like that.
Well, are you referring to like AdSense on Google AdSense and stuff like that?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm actually not too familiar with that term, but yeah, as far as like registering with AdSense, that's important as far as the content you're putting out and getting paid based off the content. So like, say you're on a lot of these different digital platforms where your content is viewed a lot. Having an AdSense account is going to get you paid for that.
Got you, got you, got you. So, streaming royalties. Can you break down streaming royalties with the streaming platforms? How did that work? And the
So,
percentage that artists usually get paid out from that.
typically they get paid 0.0 0.03 cents. Like it's not even 2 cents. It's like a fraction of a cent.
Mm,
A cent. And then but the way that works is like if your music is streamed on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, they pay out a royalty for that. But as I mentioned, your distributor only collects like 25% of the royalties for your streams. There's like another 75%.
What's good, y'all? It's your girl Pinterest, and I just want to give a big shout out to Golden Money Team Marketing. Y'all make sure y'all get at them for all promo services, all marketing services, the whole nine, media, all that. Make sure y'all tell them that your girl Pinterest sent you.
You can collect if you're registered with ASCAP, BMI, and stuff like that.
okay. So do you feel artists need to create their own website, and why?
Definitely. So this is like probably the most important thing for me because it gives you the ability to track your fans with a pixel. Because with your website, you can take a Facebook pixel or a TikTok pixel and you can install it um, in the actual website, and that way, anytime someone visits your website, you get their information and you know who they are. So it gives you a lot more access to your biggest fans because your your fans that actually visit your website are actually engaging with your content. It's not like putting on a piece of content that goes viral and only a small percentage of the people follow you or take the action that you want them to take. With the website, they are doing, they're going, that's like the final stage, one of the final stages of your funnel once they get onto the website and actually start searching and going through it. So website is important just for tracking your fans, and then on top of that, it's good for direct to consumer marketing. If you're not reliant on streaming platforms, or if you can't get a big following on streaming platforms, you can make a lot more money if you have your own website and you go direct to consumer and you sell people, your music directly versus relying on streaming platforms.
So selling your music directly to your audience, do you feel that's better than registering with uh, a distributor? Because they can flag your music. Some people's music are getting flagged. Because they get on some of these playlists, and even if you're paying for like ads and stuff like that, they'll still flag your music even if it's legit. So
Right.
do you think that's another way that artists should approach the music industry, is direct to consumer?
Definitely, just for that simple fact that streaming is not going to be good for everyone. And like you said, streaming platforms, they have a lot of rules where they can I mean, technically any platform can just remove you whenever they feel like they want to remove you. So having your own website and going direct to consumer is going to protect you from that, because one thing you can do with your website is collect people's emails and phone numbers, and if you have people buying from you and you collect their phone number and email, if you get removed from Spotify or if your Instagram gets removed, you can easily still contact those people and sell them your music.
Facts, 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 facts. So another question that I have for you is, now that we're talking about that, why should artists have a IRSRC code for their music?
So the biggest thing that I would tell artists to have the ISRC code is because it gives you a lot more control over what you do with the actual codes, and the distributor doesn't own them. I think I made a video about this not too long ago. Did really good. It just essentially gives you more control, and then it gives you access to your streaming data and streaming history. And if you get removed from a platform, like United Masters or DistroKid. But if you own your ISRC codes, you can easily just take all your history from those platforms and assign them to another distributor without any issues. You know, if you just get your ISRC code through a distributor, if they remove you, they'll give you the codes most likely, but they'll remove all the data and everything associated with it. You know, when you transfer over to another distributor. But if you own the ISRC codes, you can just do as you please with them. You know, and you have a lot more control over how the music is distributed, as far as like if people if you get some sort of like licensing deals and stuff like that, you know, it's good to have ownership of the actual code versus just relying on someone, you know, on the streaming platform to provide it.
So once the streaming platform provides you with the IRS-RC code, if you do go and publish one, you know, and you already uploaded your music, is there any way for you to upload your own IRS-RC code, even though you already distributed through that distributor?
So that's one of the issues. It's like I tell people to do this before they distribute anything,
Mm,
because right out the gate you own it. But if you already distributed and got ISRC codes distributed, it's kind of harder to change that, you know.
right.
So I would definitely do it out the gate for sure.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. So my next question, what are some of the biggest mistakes that artists can make when getting into the music industry?
I think the biggest mistake is the simple fact that they're just not consistent enough. Like a lot of people are gonna like come and post content for a couple of weeks, release some songs, post about it for a couple of weeks, and then if they don't see any traction, they stop. You know, so I feel like that's a waste of time, because if you're not consistent doing something every single day, you're not building up enough momentum to eventually get to the point where, you know, you blow up. So I would say, like, don't be someone who you know, goes dark and disappears after a couple of weeks. If you're going to pursue the music your music dreams, you want to make sure that you're consistently doing it and you're on schedule and you don't miss, you know, a day of work. Essentially, you know, you're just consistently doing something to further your career.
Got got you. So artists must be consistent with their music as far as releasing music and posting on social media. That's what you're saying? Just all
Correct.
around?
Yeah. Yeah, all around, just be active. You know, don't take those long breaks in between, you know, releases. You know, everything has to be consistently uh you know, your output has to be consistent, as far as like the music you're releasing, the content, you know, engaging with the fans. Because if you go a couple weeks where you're posting content and then you disappear, you kind of lose all that momentum that you've built, because you know you're like starting over. So essentially that's what I would say to artists, is like, don't be someone that starts promoting and stops and then starts again and stops. Just try to, you know, go through with it for like a 6 months to a year nonstop, and you know, and see how your career changes.
Correct, correct. So artists must remain consistent when they're doing this type of work in the music
Definitely.
industry. They need to be consistent with whatever they're doing. So yeah, that's a big thing that goes on right now with independent artists. So what type of budget do you think an artist need? You know, because you know, with the music industry, nothing is really free. You know, you have to pay for marketing, you have to pay the engineer, you have to pay for the beats, you know, wardrobe, all that. You got to pay for to get your music distributed. So, what type of budget do you think an artist need? You know, if just working on a low budget, like what type of budget do you think they should do when it comes to investing in themselves, and how would you go about it if you was an artist that had a low budget and you need to do the video shoot? Like, what type of money would you set aside each month to do everything, and how would you go about that? Like, what would you get done first? You know, because
So
you got to trademark yourself, all that stuff. Like what things would you go about doing first before you actually start putting out music?
well, the first thing I would do is, trademark and register an LLC because you want to have those tax benefits and you want to have that protection for yourself before you start actually, making music and performing and stuff like that. So the first thing I would do before anything is register an LLC, trademark your name, and then once you start your business accounts and you have, everything ready to go, that's kind of when you want to start marketing yourself and putting yourself out there. But something else that I would say to answer your question prior to that is, having the right budget can mean anything. Like if you're on a low budget, you should be posting content consistently because content is a free way to market yourself. So without a budget, you might have to post content consistently for a couple months to figure out who your audience is, what piece of content is working, and then you can take like $300 a month, maybe, if you can, 1,000 a month to promote that
Mm.
piece of content and put that content in front of the right people. So what I would tell them to do is, if your budget is under $1,000 a month, definitely you have to post content. You have to figure out a way to connect with your audience using content, so that way you don't have to pay, the full amount of money that is.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Anxious Money. Just want to give a quick shout out to Golden Money Team Marketing for any type of help with music, media, promotion, marketing. Got you. Again, Golden Money Team Marketing. Salute.
Required to make it in the music industry, because if you're an artist and you don't want to post content and you just want to market yourself, you're gonna need budgets of like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars,
Right.
to make it dent. But if you're posting content, it essentially it takes away a lot of that testing you have to do with the ads, and just figuring out how to get your music out there as far as the marketing goes. But if you have content that you're putting out, you can build a good audience without spending any money, and then once you see something working, you can add to it with money.
And some of these artists, they don't really have financial advisors. So dealing with a low budget, like what would you advise an artist? Because a lot of artists make mistake and they go out and they buy the jewelry, but they don't have money for marketing. They go out and they want to have the wardrobe, but they don't invest into radio. They don't invest into a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think artists should budget, like on a low budget? What do you think they should invest in most importantly? Like what are the top 5 things you think they should invest in?
So the top 5 things that you should invest in if you have a low budget, the first thing you're going to need is engineer, producer, because you want to sound as professional as possible. That's one of the big things. Is like people think, humans are visual creatures, but at the end of the day, when it comes to music, people prefer a good audio over a video. So
Mm.
mix and master your music. Find someone that's cheap, that you can work with, that maybe engineers and does producing, and just like develop a sound with each other. So that's probably one and two is engineer and producer. The third thing I would say you need is definitely someone like a video guy, or a camera guy, just so that you can record good, quality content. um because you want to have the aesthetics there too. You don't want to just have good music. You want it to be the full package. So I would definitely go with an engineer, producer, camera guy, and then maybe, I can't think of the top of my head, but you definitely need a manager eventually.
That was my
um
next question.
yeah, but
Yeah, that
yeah,
makes.
like, as far as the management goes, that's essentially like, you know it's not fully necessary early on, but eventually when you have things going on and people are like inquiring about your music, that's when you need a manager to kind of handle those deals for you and just make sure you're making the right decisions.
So going into my next question, do you feel it's important for artists to have a manager, And what role should a manager play, and how should they help a artist? Two
So
part question.
if you're just starting out, you don't essentially need a manager because you still have to get to the point where you have something to manage, But if you get to the point where you're building your streams, you're getting some traction, you see something positive happening, that's when you want to get a manager involved so they can handle all the business aspects for you, like bookings and if people want to sign you, or when someone wants to pay you for the music and stuff like that. It's good to have a manager to play that role where they're just kind of making the decisions for you when it comes to the business aspect.
Correct. So, dealing with a manager, the next thing I would like to talk about is contracts. So, when you're dealing with a manager, is it important to have a contract set up? And do artists need to have contracts in place with all business dealing, even when it's deal with the engineer, with the beat man? Do they need to have contracts set up for all these things? And why is it important to have a contract set up with a manager as well?
So having a contract with a manager is going to protect you, in case they try to do something like rip you off or whatnot, which happens a lot, So having the right paperwork and just knowing that you and your manager are like in good terms as far as what you guys agreed on and what both of your roles are. So I'll definitely do that just for the simple fact that you want to protect yourself. And if you're not in, if a manager controls everything that you're doing, such as like the inquiries about like deals and and shows and stuff like that, you have no clue how much money they're keeping, or what exactly they're doing with the
Mm.
money. So like having that contract is definitely going to assure you that you get what you're paid. And if you don't, you can use that contract in the legal system to compensate yourself.
So, talking about money, that's another thing. So, is it important? Like, we already went over registering music, right? But now we talking about money. So, some artists lean to letting the record label, register all their stuff, and then next thing you know, everything is registered under their label. Is it important for artists to already have those things in place themselves, then depending on someone else to do it? Because they probably could get robbed like that with the percentages and stuff, with they publishing and royalties and stuff. What do you think about that?
Yeah, they're definitely getting robbed in a sense, because anyone who does it that way, where they're not the one registering everything, they always find out that they're owed money, So you definitely don't want to give anyone access to those credentials besides yourself. So like you want to be essentially your own label, even if you're signed, you want to have it set up like where you're the one who registered everything and you have the ownership in that regard, because it gives you more control. If you let a label do it, and you're not with the label, for example, like you're gonna have to switch everything, and it's just gonna hold you up, and cost you money in the long run. So I would definitely just uh do it myself for sure.
Because that's another scam that these labels and managers, and you know, people that are invested in these artists. That's something that they do to entrap these artists and get a bigger percentage. And a lot of these artists are not aware of that because they want other people to do it, but it's important to learn the industry and do things yourself. Do you
Right.
think that's
Any
an
artist.
important thing to learn and do things yourself instead of being dependent and relying on others?
Definitely, just for the simple fact that, like I said, it's kind of like the ISRC code, where if you own it, you decide what happens with it. You have the right of the power over everything, over anyone. So when you have other people do that for you, like register your music, and or even to your prior question with the contracts, I've seen people have songs that they paid engineers to record, and because they were recording with the engineer, and then once they recorded everything and the engineer had all the sessions and everything, they wouldn't give him the music. So like I've had artists that say, oh, I had an engineer I paid and they still haven't sent me my music. It's been 3 years. Without a contract, you can't really do anything about it.
Right.
So it's just
And that's where business comes in. You can't really trust nobody.
right.
Even if you think they're your friends, you must have that contract in place with everything you do.
Definitely, a work for hire agreement, definitely, because if even if you pay them, if you don't have the work for hire agreement, you don't know what people are doing behind the scenes. Most people are not even like running like real businesses. That it's like a hustle to them. So like I would I would definitely register. I mean, I would definitely have the contracts and everything in order, and just to make sure you don't give anyone any power over your music that you should have.
Correct, correct. So, what is a hack artist should use to book their own shows? Because I know that's something that artists need to do is get not only social media presence, but they need to be there in person, so people could, engage with them and build that fan base in person. What are some of the hacks that artists could use to book their own shows?
So there's a lot of apps out there that you can use, for sure. Like I know Booking Agent.io is one. I know
Mm,
there's Indie on the Move. That's a good one. Bands in Town. So what I would do is essentially every time you have a show or throw your own show, put it on all the different platforms that let you register your shows. Because that's gonna ultimately show you to the people, because a lot of promoters use those apps like Eventbrite, Bands in Town, and when you're registering your shows on all those platforms, a lot of those promoters see you, and if you're able to book your own show and get people to come to the show, that's even something that is going to interest them a lot more. So once you book your own show and you're able to promote the event and you show them that you have followers and stuff like that, that's probably one of the best ways because people who book shows, they literally look for your Spotify numbers and Instagram followers, and they kind of dictate whether or not that what they want to pay you. So I would definitely build a social media following as well, put out a lot of content, and just try to, build a community because ultimately, when these promoters, when you pitch yourself to them, they're gonna check out your socials and your Spotify, and if the numbers are not right and the content is not there, they're definitely not gonna consider you for a show.
so I wanted you to break down registering. You say registering your shows. Like, what does that mean? Like, how do you? That's a terminology that I never heard. So, how
So,
do you actually register your shows? Like, what
I
is
was
that?
saying, I was saying, like register them on platforms, event platforms like Eventbrite, bands in town. So there's a lot of websites. Like if you go on there and you search a specific city, it's going to show you all the shows in that city. So
Right.
what you can do when you have a show in your city, you can put your own show on those websites and stuff like that. And if you're able to show people that you're organized and you have, your music properly being promoted and you're posting content and you're putting your shows on all these different platforms, that's more likely to get you more shows. Yeah, and someone in the comment section said Songkick. That's a good one too. Having
Mm.
Songkick and just putting all your shows on your Spotify profile and stuff like that. That's a really really good tool too. But yeah, essentially just being organized and promoting your shows, having content, having a community based around you. Those are all some things that these promoters look at before they book you.
Got you. So, talking about Spotify, what methods can artists use to grow their Spotify?
So your Spotify, there's multiple ways to grow it, but my favorite way to grow a Spotify profile is actually by curating your own playlist. So when you're on Spotify, you can create your own playlist on your profile, on your artist profile, and then you can base the playlist around any interest, any topics, any genres. So let's just say like you make music that's very emo rap or something, you can create an emo rap playlist and you can put your music on that playlist, and then you can put other artists who are emo rap on that playlist, and then you can create visualizers for that playlist and run ads on it using meta ads, and you can drive up a lot of the followers on that playlist, and you can trigger the algorithm on Spotify if you do that correctly. So once you get your playlist going, you're going to notice that uh, not only does your monthly listeners, your followers, and everything grow, but you're going to notice that artists that you put on your playlist are going to show up in your fans also like section. So that's ultimately going to feed you to the right audience that you want to be in, seen by. So I would definitely say that's probably my number one uh, best way to build a Spotify is through curating your own playlist and running ads on those playlists.
Got you. And that's a key thing to run ads as well. Through that
Definitely,
platform, you got to spend money with the mob.
definitely, that's
You got
definitely
to
true.
spend money, and they will allow you to grow more because you're actually spending money with that platform. So that's something
Definitely.
key.
But
So
if you don't
yeah,
have
go
a
on.
budget, if you don't have a budget, you can do content. You can promote the like one way I would promote the playlist if I didn't have a budget was I would be an artist that's like, hey, I would talk to other artists like I'm creating a playlist. If you're an artist and you want to get on it, make sure you go follow it and submit me your music. Do some like content marketing to promote it if you don't have the budget to run ads. Because ultimately you can post the right piece of content for the playlist and you can get a bunch of people to follow you on there, and then you can use that as a way to grow the playlist and network with more people.
Right, I see somebody in the comments say if you sign to a label, they control you. That's not necessarily true in my eyes.
Yo, it's your boy Z. Just wanted to let you guys know that if you guys need any marketing at all with music and really music and all that type of stuff, social media marketing, just promotion, just all that, and good people around you, hit up Golden Money Team Marketing proper. They know what they're doing, and he's the man for real. They'll put you on. They'll put you on for sure. Golden Money Team Marketing. Check them out.
It all depends on the contract, correct? Because that's why you have to have legal representation and the right representation
Definitely.
and the right people around you. That way, the label can't actually control you. You guys will be you'll be in a partnership. So, what advice do you have for people and artists that are signing with a label? Like, what type of deal do you think they should sign? Should they get in partnership with them? Should they do a 360? Like, do they need lawyers present? Like, how would you go about that?
So you definitely want to have lawyers present, someone that not like a labels lawyer. You want to have your own lawyer so there's no like conflict of interest, and then essentially make sure that that lawyer represents your rights, and and make sure he's pretty clear about what the artist wants, because every deal is different, and a lot of artists, they're so eager to sign the deal, so like they'll sign away everything, if the right label comes to them. So what I would tell artists is like it's different ways to go about it, but what I would do is like if I released a song and I was an artist and it goes viral, I might sign a deal and give them anything they want, especially if I might be a one hit wonder. So if it's like I'm not, if I don't have a longevity, you could make a lot more money by signing with the label, if you have like say a hit song right out the gate, and then you kind of monetize off that potential, kind of like the basketball player did. He had that one song out and he had a lot of hype and buzz behind him, and he signed like an $8 million deal. So
Oh yeah, Lamelo Ball or whatever his name is.
correct. So like that's a smart situation because he built up
Yeah,
the hype and buzz, and then he signed the biggest deal he could have signed, and he got more money up
facts,
front.
facts.
But but for me, I don't think his music is good enough to the point where it's gonna last forever. So I was like, he definitely made the right decision because he essentially built all this buzz and anticipation, and he capitalized off it. So I thought that was really smart. But um if you're an artist and you're like you're not someone who's going has major hits and stuff like that, probably would go with a partnership more than anything. So kind
Facts.
of like a 21
That's
Savage, he has like a
just what he
partnership.
did. That's just what 21 Savage did. He formed a partnership.
Yeah, he had that. Like his is smart because he didn't take any money up front, but he was already kind of buzzing, and they were like, just give me 95%, and then essentially that works out better for him because he's on like a major label machine, but he keeps 95%.
So basically, what you're basically telling artists is focus on building the buzz first. That way, you have more leverage. Because if you don't have
Right,
any leverage, you're not going to be able to get the deals that you want or form a partnership. Because you can go into a partnership with a label, but if you don't have any leverage
right,
and you taking that upfront money, they have actually more control over what you do. And then if you do what you said, form your own label, you can actually put out music when you want. Because you have the label, you have ownership of yourself. You don't really want the label to do all these things for you because
right,
they're going to look into that. They got lawyers of their own, so you're going to need your own lawyers. You really need a team. You're going to have to really
right.
invest in yourself.
Yeah, you
You
need a
can't do it by
full team.
yourself.
Right. You
You
need
need
like,
people
I mean, you need like 10 people on your team, just to, but that's like a small team because there's like people who have, 15 people, and each one of those people has like 15 people behind them, and it's like, it's like a whole city behind the
right.
artist.
I'm glad you said that. So you say 10 people on your team. Can you name those 10 people that you actually need when you're going into business outside of making the music?
So the first thing, like I said, we mentioned needing an engineer and producer because you want to develop your sound. It's good to have that consistent sound because that's going to bring in repeat listeners. So definitely have an engineer and a producer. Those are the first two. A video guy is important because you want to shoot content, shoot music videos. That's really important.
That's three.
And then a marketer, you're gonna need someone who's gonna, market your music and put it in front of the right people. And then a manager is someone that we, like I said, in the right circumstances, you're gonna need a manager. Someone said graphic designer. That's for sure too. You might need
That's
a graphic
six.
designer. That's six. And then
What about a
I would
lawyer?
say, yeah, that's what I was gonna say next is like having a lawyer that you can trust and that does good work. I think that'll be seven.
Yep.
But yeah, ultimately, yeah, just having those people as like the base team. Like just like it's still a small team, but I would have at least all those seven people.
Got you. Got you. So going into my next question, what is the best way artists can run ads on Instagram to increase their following and engagement?
So the best way to run the ads is actually through the ads manager on Meta Business Suite because you have a lot more control there. Like a lot of people do boost post, but when you boost a post, you don't have the control over who sees the content, and on top of that, you pay a 30% service fee using the App Store. So I personally would never boost post. I would always do it through the ads manager on Meta Business Suite, just so you have more control over how you're running your ads. And then I would just do a traffic campaign on on Meta Business Suite and direct people towards your profile. You can also do other things where you promote the post instead of the actual profile, where you're like trying to make a post go viral, because if you run an ads on a post and you target the right audience and you're able to trigger the algorithm with that post, you can get a lot of followers that way too.
So when you say Meta, they would have to have a Facebook set up as well to have that Meta information,
Uh,
correct?
Correct, yeah. So Meta is essentially well, it used to be called Facebook, but now it's called Meta.
Got you. So everybody that's listening, make sure you have your Facebook. So Instagram and Facebook is basically like one company, correct?
Right, correct. Yep.
Okay. So my next question is tell me one strategy that artists should use when they're advertising on YouTube.
So the my favorite strategy on YouTube is content marketing, just for the simple fact that people watch long formatted videos on YouTube. They have shorts too, but it's primarily for 10-minute videos where you can kind of get in depth about your life and show people your behind the scenes and And you can kind of take topics that relate to your music and you can make videos about them. For example, like let's just say you're an artist and you have spiritual music. You can easily get on YouTube and create content based around spirituality and just kind of try to tap in with that spiritual community and then direct those people towards your music. This is probably one of the best ways to do it because YouTube has a search engine, so it's like the videos you put up there. It's kind of like releasing a song when you release a piece of content on YouTube because you get paid for the content and it registers in the algorithm. And on top of that, it registers in the search engines. So that video is like relevant forever. So
Right,
I
right,
would
right, right.
definitely, I would definitely tell people, get your content marketing game on, when it comes to YouTube and use that as a way to increase your revenue on YouTube and promote your music.
Heard. So my next question is playlisting. Playlisting is something that is big and that artists need. Name one secret hack that artists should use to get more playlisting.
Ads are actually a great way to get on playlist. If you have if you run a conversion campaign on Meta ads, when you're running the ads directly off of Instagram, because with Meta ads you can choose whether you want to run the ad on Facebook or Instagram. Something you can do is take content for your song and run ads on Instagram Reels, Stories, and Explore tab, and then you can do a conversion campaign where you're directing those people towards your Spotify, and as those people are
Mm,
playing your song and engaging in it, a lot of people are going to add you to playlists as well. So ads are actually one of the best ways that I've seen people grow. Um, you know, get more playlist ads. So definitely, take some good content and run some conversion campaigns for your song. You'll get a lot of playlist ads.
That's great advice. So, what is one mistake that artists make when their songs blow up
I would
and they
say the
getting that
biggest
traction?
mistake, right? I would say the biggest mistake they make is thinking that every song is gonna blow up or just kind of getting too comfortable. Because for me, like when things go good, I know it's less pressure. So you have like like if you go viral with a post and hundreds of thousands of people see it, or a song that millions of people see it, you're probably expecting that all the time from that point on, and you're expecting probably that you don't have to work as hard because your song is blown up. But the truth is, it's a lot harder to maintain your presence than it is to get a presence. So
Mm,
the mistake I would tell artists is like don't make is don't get comfortable and don't let your feet off the gas. Keep going as hard as possible.
that's facts. That's great advice. So, should more artists be using Twitch? I see there's a switch in the game with the streamers and stuff like that. Like a lot of people are getting big off of Twitch, and I know a lot of people just focusing on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and stuff like that. But should more artists be going over to Twitch, and why, and how should they go about using it?
Yeah, so Twitch is definitely live streaming, just not, in general, not just Twitch. On YouTube and all these different platforms. It's really really beneficial because you're going live with an audience is like the best connection you can make with them. Because it's not as fake as putting out content that that you just shoot like 100 times or whatever. It's like raw. And so
Facts.
it's like you're developing that a deeper connection with your audience. And on top of that, it's good for networking. Some of the most popular people on the planet are streamers. So if you get into that lane and you're able to build a following on a streaming platform, you can essentially blow up doing anything. If you look at any streamer, anytime they make a song, it has like 30, 50 million views, just
Right,
because
right, right,
just
right.
because they have such a deep connection with their audience. And even if they don't have that many people streaming them, the conversion rate is a lot higher than like any other platform.
Factual. So, how much should an artist be posting on social media, like give or take?
I would say if you're brand new and you don't have any followers, if you don't have if you don't have any followers, what I would do is essentially post like 3 times a day. Post as much as you can because nothing can hurt you when you're not famous. When you're not already famous and have a big following, if you don't have any fans, it's kind of like a blessing because you can literally test out whatever you want and try whatever you want. You can post as much as times as you want. But if you have a following, I would say I wouldn't like just put out content consistently. I would be consistent, but I would try to post like 3 to 5 good posts a week, maybe seven. Just to kind of keep the audience engaged and keep the growth going. But ultimately, it depends on what stage you are in your career. If you're just starting out, post as much as you can. If you don't have anything
Right.
to lose, just keep going. But if you get to the point where you have a following, like for example, for me, I try to post as much as I can, but I know I can get away with like 3 to 5 good posts a week now, because I have like
Mm-hmm.
200,000 followers. Um, so it just depends on, what stage you are in your career.
Okay, that's great advice. So we about to wrap it up. So what are some things that artists could do to blow up in their city?
So something that I would do if I was trying to blow up in my city is I would I would hit all the studios and all the like main attractions in the city, and I would record content there, and then like as I'm recording content, like say you have a nice beach in your city or you have studio everyone goes to. You can book that studio and shoot content there, and then you can run ads to people in the city that know about that location or that studio, and you can target everyone that's been to that location as well on Facebook. So what I would do is just try to get stuff that you feel like your city would recognize, and then I would shoot content there and then run ads towards the city, towards people who like the same type of music you're making. And then I would try to, make that correlation where, like, if people see you at a studio that they've been to, or they see you with an artist in the city that's really buzzing, and at the studio together, and you use that as content, that's like a great way to get in front of the local audience.
Got you. That's deep. So why do you feel it's important for artists to build their catalog? Some artists might just drop one song in a year, but then you have people like Russ who is consistently dropping and building his catalog. Why do you feel it's important for artists to build their catalog?
So the first thing I would say is the simple fact that in order
What going on? What going on? Whip hot box like chiropractors. Watch me take flight like helicopters. Know the Monday team got mine like rosters. Where we represent G.
for someone to become a fan of you, there has to be a lot of songs for them to listen to.
Mm,
If you only have, even if you only have 10 songs, it's hard for someone to say, "Oh, they love this person." But if you
right,
have like
right,
50, if you have 50, 100 songs out, I mean, people are going to be like, people are going to, it's going to be real easy for them to become a bigger fan because there's just so much music for them to listen to, and they feel like they know you better. So that's the first step, is like just having enough music so people can become a fan of it, and really like listen to it, is to all that you have. It's kind of like a TV show. If you just seen a pilot, you can have the best pilot in the world, but if the show gets canceled, there's no one's gonna become a fan of that show. It's because it's just a pilot, even if it's the best pilot. So it's like,
right,
for
right.
me, it's about having that catalog and having a lot of different shows and songs and stuff like that to really become a fan. So that would be my first thing with the catalog. The second thing is like, when you have when you get a big buzz, there's gonna be a lot of people that want to do deals with you, and if you only have one song that's buzzing, everyone's gonna kind of want to go after that song, and it's going to be hard to it's going to be hard once you sign away the rights to that song to get it back and whatnot, especially if it's your main performance song. So what you want to do is you want to have a catalog where you have all your music, kind of, it doesn't have to go viral, but doing decently, so that you can essentially license out, you have more control over all these all these different songs and stuff like that, so you can license them out. You can essentially just do whatever it is you want, as far as like, you can sell your catalog, a portion of it or whatnot. And if you have a bunch of songs doing really well, it's not going to hurt you, when you sell a portion of your catalog or you do a licensing deal or something like that.
And you know what? Artists can make money off of licensing their music, especially out of seas. They'll buy that music for a large sum of money, and that's something that artists can actually make money off of licensing. Do you think that's an approach that some artists should take, licensing their music across seas?
Definitely license,
Because
if
they
you have
have the responsibility of promoting it and stuff like that. You
right,
just collecting a one sum fee, and now you're
right,
getting more exposure with them investing into your music, and you get more exposure across seas, and now you can build your fan base, and then you can also invest that money in something else into
right.
your own career. So, what do you feel about licensing? Now that you brought that up,
I think it's great as far as like income because and it goes back to having a catalog that you can like if you just have one hit song, it's gonna be hard to um keep relicensing and and all that stuff with the same song. But if you have a catalog and you're licensing, you know, songs to different companies and stuff like that, you're definitely making a lot more money. And then on top of that, you're getting a lot of promotion, like you said, when you get a licensing deal because a lot of them want to see the asset make money. So what they do is they invest in it as well. They put it on like movies and stuff like that, and they put it on commercials, and they put it on apps and video games. So I would definitely get a good licensing deal would definitely increase your catalog.
got you. So, what do you feel about merch? A lot of artists don't have merch, and that's another way of making income. Do you feel it's important to have merch, and how should they go about investing in it? Because there are plenty ways, you could buy your own stuff, that you could print out your own stuff. You know,
So
what you think how artists should go about with the merch?
with the merchandise, here's one thing. Like if your merchandise is based around you, the artist, like your logo and stuff like that, it's hard to sell it online unless people already know you and have a connection with you.
Mm,
So if you're performing a lot, I would definitely have merch for sale because I speak to a lot of artists who are established and they make millions from merchandise on tour, but they don't make nearly as much with the e-commerce, just because when you have something that's based around you and your image, it sells better if you have an in-person connection with those fans, so like a show and then having a bunch of merchandise there that you can sell. So I would say make some merchandise, but don't if you're not.
What it do, world? Artist producer here, Cool Days, man. And the reason I'm here is to tell y'all need to rock with Golden Money Team Marketing, man. All your needs, they handle it one-stop shop. Holla at your boys, man. They gonna get you right. Cool.
Not performing, I wouldn't base the merchandise based on your logo and stuff like that. I'm not sure if I don't know if you know who ASAP Rocky is, but I think he
yeah,
had a little something to do with like a bunch of clothing companies. He didn't
yes,
necessarily he didn't necessarily make the clothing companies after his brand and stuff like that. It was something that it was more broad. It was still targeted, niche targeted, but it was something that people could wear even if they weren't a fan of him. So it's like when you're selling merchandise online, you want to make sure that you have designs like t-shirts that people are gonna wear even if they're not a fan of you, just based off how it looks and stuff like that. If you have merchandise that's based around your your face and your logo as an artist, it's kind of hard to sell that online, because a lot of those people haven't seen you perform, and on top of that, it's based around your music, and they might not be fans of the music yet, so it's harder to sell. But if people see you perform, they're at a show, they like music, they're there to see people perform, and then you have like a little merch stand, you can make a lot of money like that.
got you. So there are a lot of artists that are selling their catalog. How do you feel about this new wave of artists selling their catalog? Is it something smart? Because some of them look at it as, I'm getting, this lump sum of money, and it's going to take me this amount of
Right.
years to make this money. And then, some artists, feel that they put a lot of effort into making this music and they have a connection with it, so they don't want to sell it. So what do you feel about people selling their catalogs?
So a few things here. The first thing is like the simple fact that is like when you uh liquidate those assets as far as selling them, you're able to take that money and create more catalog. So a lot of like later, like for example, Lil Wayne, he sold his, for 150 million.
Mm,
I'm pretty sure that's enough money. I mean, that's not enough. I think it was a lowball advice. I mean, lowball deal, but from his perspective, he's like, oh, I can take this 150 million, make more music, and then own the catalog of the newer music, and then license that out. And it's like it's a business move, because if you need money right then and there, and you have the catalog that's generating, thousands of dollars a month, you can sell it for whatever it is you're making, 10 times what you're making if you have enough history, so it's like you're getting that money in advance. And I think in that situation, it depends on the artist, how bad do you need money, and then for some artists, it's like their catalog is going to make money for the rest of their life. And even when they're done, even when they die, so for those people, I wouldn't necessarily sell my catalog, because I feel like, it's timeless music. It's gonna get more and more. It's gonna make more and more money over time. But at the end of the day, like those artists are not gonna live forever. So it's like, what's the point of your song going viral in 100 years when you're not alive? So it's
right,
like, in a sense, it just depends. If you have kids and you want to pass on, your catalog to them, that makes sense. But ultimately, for
right.
a lot of these guys, they're like, man, I'm just gonna sell it and get this large upfront money, and then invest that money in other places. So I think that's where that kind of comes from.
Got you, got you. So I ask all my guests that come on to the show, you know, this when they come on to the show, what do you value more, morals or money?
Morals, for sure, definitely.
Why is that? Can you break that down?
Well, money comes and goes, so it's like you can have $1 billion, and then if you make a mistake, if the IRS says you owe this and that, that's all gone, so it's like then it's like the money you can spend pretty fast. Like it's hard to make the money. It's not hard to make the money, but it's like it's hard to stack up 500,000, but it's easy to spend it if you have
Right, right,
if you
right.
if you you know once if you're in Los Angeles like me, I mean you can blow through 500,000 in a year, so it's like it's not even
Woo!
worth it.
Yeah.
So it's not even worth it, to me. I rather have my peace of mind and just like I'd rather feel good inside than have a bunch of money
I
for sure. Just
most
flowing.
definitely blew through 100,000 in a year for sure. But 500,000 in a year, wow, that's a
Yeah,
lot of
LA's
money.
LA is
That's a
crazy,
lot of
man.
money
When
for
when you
sure.
Uber eats every day and you smoke every day and like
Right, right,
it
right, right,
adds up.
right,
It could
right.
be like $50, 100 a day. That's
That add
that's
up.
like that add up. Yep.
That for sure add up. So another question I like to ask all my guests that come on to the show: what comes first in your life, money, power, or respect? And just put it in.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl, Sexy Keisha. And if you're trying to become that star you knew you could always be, go viral, blow up, hit the billboards, top charting artists, you gotta hit up the Golden Money Team Marketing. Yes, they are the ones to do that for you. Let's go viral. Golden Money Team Marketing. Tell them Sexy Keisha sent you. You know what it is.
In order and explain each one. What comes first in your life? Money, power, respect.
Honestly, I would have to go with respect, just for the simple fact that like I feel like we should respect everyone and just kind of all have like a kind of like a like a I feel like everyone's kind of like a big family in this world, so just like respecting everyone where they came from, and you know hearing them out and stuff like that. I think that's more important than anything, because with me, power and money is like I said, the money can fade away, and power is like I'm not a big power type of guy, because it's like it's like some bullying stuff. I don't really like do that. But as far as like respect, I feel like everyone should respect everyone. It'd be a better world for sure.
So you have respect. So what'll be next? Money, then power.
Yeah, I would say respect, power, then money. Because if you
Mm,
have the respect, like I said, that's important as far as like morals go and stuff like that. And then the power is like you can use the power to make money, to control people, to do all types of stuff. So I think that's like has to be number two. With the money, like I said, it's like it's a tool. It's like it could be
right,
stripped away from you. Like power can't really be stripped away. If you're like a powerful person, that's it can be stripped away from you. Respect can be stripped away from you. So it's like money is like something that just fades away. So I would put that last.
right, right. Got you. So just to get off topic a little bit. So there's a lot of Ricos going on right now. With these artists, they're in these gangs and stuff like that. It's a lot of self snitching going on, in
Hmm.
the industry. It's a lot of people dying and stuff like that. What advice do you have to give to artists when it comes to when they actually get in the game, they get in the money? What advice do you have for these artists? Because you can't take everybody with you. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? How would you give advice to artists when they make it, and how would you explain to them, that they can't take these type of people with them, and to surround yourself with people who are more business oriented, hiring real security and stuff like that? Like, what type of advice would you give to them when they're getting into the money? Those who are particularly in that street life.
To remember, when it comes to when you're famous, the spotlight is on you. So like everything you do, I'm pretty sure someone is like accounting for it. You don't know who's looking at you and investigating you. So it's like when you make it, you wanna still help your people, but you don't want to be in a situation where you're moving like you moved before the fame, because ultimately a lot of people do it for protection. They think it's safer for them, if they have all their friends and stuff like that. But I think it's a total opposite, especially if a lot of those friends, you don't know what type of intentions they have.
Mm,
And on top of that, they're not they're not, they can still get you in a situation where you get like a RICO charge and stuff like that based off what some of your friends are doing. So I would definitely distance myself. If you give anyone money, you're automatically a funder for them. So like you could be the most innocent person. If the people around you are doing stuff they're not supposed to and you're giving them money, I mean, you can get a RICO charge for that. So it's like I would be very, very careful. I would remember the people that are actually there to help you forward the music. I would only surround myself by people that are working to get me to the next step. Not like
right.
homeboys and stuff like that. I mean, we'll hang out, but I'm not, taking people. I'm not like taking people with me. As far as like on the road, especially if I know that they're not, handling themselves in a professional manner.
Yeah, because a lot of these artists are more concerned about their reputation than their image. You
Right.
have to have a good positive image. You don't want to really focus on your reputation, then you start self snitching. Like, look at Big U. They got videos. They Rico in the rolling 60s right now. I don't know if you know about that.
Yeah.
I know you in Cali,
Yeah. I
and
know.
he's an older guy, and these guys, they making these videos, and now the feds coming in, and they taking these boys up, and they not really focusing on their image, because you can't really try to keep this gangster persona and try to keep this reputation in the hood when the feds are watching. Once they hit you with that Rico, there's really nothing you can do after that.
Yeah, and if you're the top richest guy in that crew, I mean, you get like you're the leader. You're like a you're like the leader of the everything. That's how they look at it. So
Packing these guns, dope in my backpack, getting off a one sack, bustin' licks, cause we race like that.
Watch my dope transform like Power Rangers. Empty out the clip, better bullet will tame you. Leaving leaning like a shirt, hanging on a coat hanger. Chopper bullets have you singing like an opera singer. Can't be a... Patience is a virtue. Everything in life takes time. Stay focused, stay consistent, stay on your grind. Wow. Second man up, just like Scottie Pippen. Had to wait my turn, I ain't even tripping. Double up.